All right. Good day, everybody. Thanks for joining the virtual LNG as a marine fuel conference. BS Group welcomes you to this free of charge interactive session. Some 317 people have registered for the event. BS Group organizes conferences and interactive sessions to network and to share intelligence between industry professionals. This is my first online experience in this particular formatting. I'm excited to be present. Also a bit nervous. Let's hope that is not necessarily. Luckily, I have some excellent panelists with me that have experience across the value chain, and together we should be able to cover a wide array of topics and address any questions you may have. The panelist next to myself, Michael Schaap is my name, the commercial director of Titan LNG. We have Angus Campbell, the corporate director of energy projects at Schulte Group. Bjorn Mulko, the general manager for TGE gas engineering. And Antonio Miranda, head of LNG bunkering at Naturgy. And Johan Christensen, the operations manager of Vurentank. The idea for today in terms of the agenda is that we will start with a small presentation from each of the panelists. That will take about 10 minutes per person. And the reason why we keep it a bit on the short side is that we want to have as much time as possible for some interactive question and answer sessions. Questions can be submitted through the Zoom window, and we hope for a very lively and interactive session with all the audience. And feel free to test our combined knowledge. And again, let's make it something interactive. I will start with my presentation. I don't know how I'm first. That's not very polite to do, but okay. Right. So I work for Titan LNG, a physical supplier in the mainly in the ARA region, but also expanding much more across the globe. Founded some 8 years ago, pioneering into the LNG as a marine fuel space, but also active on the shore side of doing to industrial customers and to truck refueling stations. We started with truck to ship, as you can see on the left side, and then ventured out into more conventional LNG bunkering in various shapes and forms, chartering small-scale LNG carriers as well to deliver to this huge vessel that you can see there, which is the Sleipnir, which is up to now the largest bunkering that has taken place in the world, soon to be surpassed by the deliveries that will be carried out to the mega box ships of CMA CGM. Total has got a small bunker barge to accommodate that. These deliveries will be substantially bigger. Okay, so how do we deliver LNG as a marine fuel to our customers? We either load from carriers into small scale LNG supply infrastructure, whether it's barges or small scale LNG carriers. We load from terminals and we bring that to our customers. Over the last years, we have grown substantially, which we're quite proud of. The pictures always say more than 1,000 words. This is a delivery which we carried out to a newly built car carrier owned by SIEM, operated by Volkswagen, loading cars in Emden. We chartered the NGZ Bruges to carry out this delivery. So not only do we use our own assets, but we also charter in capacity to fulfill the demand of our customers. Our flex fueler in the ARA, we have done well over 100 deliveries, and a lot of trucks we still load each and every month. So this is flex fueler number 2. Hopefully most of the people that are listening in know about our flex fueler number 1, which was operational since June last year. Being very successful business model, we decided to do number 2, and she's currently nearing completion at the same shipyard as where the flex fueler number 1 was built. So where can you bunker? Now, on the left side you see some of the locations where we have bunkered, either truck to ship or ship to ship. The list is growing on our side, and if we look into what our competitors are doing, so on the global scale, the amount of locations that are opened and the amount of infrastructure that is available to take in LNG as a marine fuel is growing rather quickly at this moment. This is a sample of what we have done as Titan LNG. We sailed this small-scale LNG carrier almost across the globe to follow this huge crane vessel going from Sumatra to Gibraltar to Cape Verde, Trinidad, and back into Gibraltar and Rotterdam. So that was quite an exciting adventure last year. And the main topic is that on most of the ports we were the first one to actually do a LNG bunkering, and that is, well, we saw huge differences in the approaches of the port. Sometimes it was very difficult, having to submit a lot of documentation, demonstrating that we can do safe transfers. And sometimes it was actually quite easy, where ports were very pleased about this development, and saying, listen, if you can do it safely, basis your accreditation that you already have in place, you're very welcome. So we do see still differences in the readiness or the open-mindedness of ports to allow and facilitate LNG as a marine fuel and the bunkering imports. Recently, or during the summer, we have made a sizable announcement as Titan LNG that we will further increase our infrastructure in the proximity of the ARA range with the development of our Titan Hyperion barge. She's an 8,000 cube barge and serves as a very nice addition to our 2 flex fuelers, which are smaller in size. They carry about 1,500 cubes each one of them. And the 8,000 cube barge is needed, as far as we are concerned, to facilitate the growing demand for LNG as a marine fuel. So we see that the parcels that we have to deliver are growing bigger and bigger. And also we want to have the best loading economics of scale available. And that is done by deploying this bigger barge. Then it's much more economical to load at the various terminals in proximity of the ARA region. And we've also found a contribution for 2 additional flex fuelers, which will be deployed in the port of Zeebrugge and the port of Lübeck, creating a bigger network of LNG supply possibilities in the wider ARA region. And we got this contribution from the European Union on the Connecting Europe facility because we want to include bio-LNG into our supply chain as early as possible. And the design of the flex fuelers and the Hyperion is very much suitable to start incorporating physical supplies of physical streams of bio-LNG into our infrastructure, because we work with Type C tanks, which are predominantly a bit smaller, meaning we can isolate various physical streams. And the CEF, the Connecting Europe facility, found our idea very good. So we're finalizing the arrangements on this subsidy that we obtained for this project. LNG is here as far as I'm concerned. Hopefully the other presenters will go a bit more detail on the supply chain and demonstrating that it's possible, it's here. And we strongly believe that LNG is also a future-proof solution. If you look at it's a bit complicated slide, but with the inclusion of bio LNG and potentially synthetic LNG as well, we can reduce the carbon sufficiently in order to meet future legislation as well. So the point here is investing in a dual fuel engine together with potentially in future some carbon capture on board, closes the cycle and makes you ready for the inclusion of synthetic LNG as well when it comes up to scale, to reduce your emissions to almost zero. So as another example of what we do, we have sometimes in-depth interactions with some of our customers. Some people find LNG still very difficult to get a handle on, whether it's on pricing, conversion, euro per megawatt hour versus conventional fuels is all pretty much dollar per ton. Our statement here is it's not difficult, it's different. And with it being different, we want to lower the barriers and provide in-depth knowledge to these ship owners or charterers that are on the verge or considering LNG as a marine fuel. We have developed various tools in order to be able to compare the pricing of LNG, but also make the right choices in terms of tank size. And to we help to co-determine, because it's in the end the charterer or the owner itself that makes a final decision. But we provide some insights into the anticipated return on investment for LNG powered vessels. So we calculate basis the amount of time on the sea, some of the port calls, looking into the future prices of LNG versus MGO, and then help co-determine the payback time for the additional investment that you have to do to get a LNG powered ship on the water. Okay, that's it for me. So any questions regarding physical supply, pricing, etc., are more than welcome. Okay, then I would like to hand over the presentation to Angus.
Thanks very much, Michael.
Welcome.
Okay, is that visible to everyone? Are you seeing, Michael, is the screen coming through?
Yes, it is, Angus. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, you were mute there. So, yeah. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to just go into a little bit about LNG and beyond. You know, what comes next? We hear about the energy transition a lot. You can't open a newspaper nowadays without hearing more about environmental matters and how the shipping industry has to change. And within Schulte Group, we've been looking at this in some detail. We have a team of 17 people within the group looking at this, and we'd like to share some of our conclusions today. But first of all, just a quick snapshot of the makeup of Schulte Group. We're a family-owned German shipping company with 3 specific business lines. we have the ship owning side, the ship management side, and the maritime services side, comprising Schulte Group. On the ship owning side, the in-house fleet is about 90 vessels. The managed fleet is about 600 vessels. And on the LNG side, of course, Pronav is part of Schulte Group. And on the maritime services side, we have quite a services that help us deliver. And they range from software to new construction supervision to catering, right through to Dive Marine, which provides inspection services. So over 15 companies now. So this is quite a diverse look at Schulte Group and the maritime solutions that can be provided. We have a global presence. You can see the offices indicated on the map. The group employs around about 20,000 people, 18,000 seafarers, and 2,000 personnel across the world in shore-based offices. And why do we think LNG is important as a low-carbon fuel? Now, clearly, LNG is the bird in the hand. And as a transitional or bridging fuel, taking us from the hydrocarbon to the hydrogen economy, it has an absolutely essential part. The first things people ask when we talk about a transition or a bridge is, how long is the bridge? Well, in this case, it's a long time. It's probably 35 years or more. And, as Michael has indicated, there are ways of decarbonizing LNG which can extend its useful position as a low carbon marine fuel well into the future. One of the advantages that LNG has is the infrastructure already exists. And what we're talking about today is predominantly the last mile delivery capability. And Schulte Group are engaged in LNG bunkering. You can see the Kairos in the picture, providing LNG to a new build cruise ship. The Kairos is a joint venture between Schulte Group and Babcock, and she is time chartered to Gasum, and she is currently employed in the Baltic. She is a 7,500 cubic meter ice class bunkering vessel, and is part of what is becoming an increasing number of LNG bunker vessels that are available, some of which are capable of serving a region, such as the Kairos, or other units that are designed to work within a port. So the LNG value chain is mature, and as we know, has an excellent safety record. And one thing that we believe in very strongly is that high standards and quality training are essential as the use of LNG expands across the fleet to be used in tankers, cruise ships, bulk carriers, car carriers. This focus on training, respecting the LNG, understanding how to handle essential if we want to keep the excellent safety record. There is absolutely no doubt that we operate in a challenging environment. I think we all also recognize that LNG provides a competitive solution. It's a lower carbon fuel with global availability. And of course, there are a number of competing forces driving change within the shipping industry to drive the shipping industry to decarbonize. The first, of course, is regulation. IMO are setting out to reduce the carbon footprint of shipping, but they have competition. As we have seen, the European Union is very keen to perhaps, shall we say, force the pace more quickly. One of the tools they may decide to use that is carbon pricing, bringing shipping into the European Emission Trading Scheme. So regulation from governments and from the IMO, that's one half of the story. I think the other half is equally important, and that is customer pressure. All the major charterers and their customers are setting very strong sustainability targets. And they are pressing for the shipping industry to play a part in reducing their carbon footprint. So whereas before the shipping industry was sort of over the horizon, out of sight and out of mind, I think that is changing. We are very much counted as part of the value chain, and we are expected to make a contribution to their sustainability targets. And the last but not least is social license. It's what the public expects. I think we are in an environment now where everything is being looked at with great attention, and those that are large consumers of energy are going to be expected to decarbonize, and social license will depend on achieving that. Now, we said LNG is a competitive solution. It's available globally. New pricing methods are being developed, and as Michael mentioned, this is already offering limited bio-LNG components in some areas. We noticed that, for example, Gasum as well are supplying in the Baltic LNG with a bio component, and I think this is something that will probably continue. So just very quickly, within the 10 minutes allotted, where do we go if we hope to reach for our industry? Well, I guess the question is, how will shipping decarbonize? And this is very much a work in progress. And we don't claim that our crystal ball is any better than yours, but possible pathways are coming into sight, and I think are driving us towards certain solutions that may be practical and competitive in the future. One of the things that complicates the question, it's actually a number of different questions depending what age that ship is. There will be many different solutions. There'll be different solutions for deep sea, high energy intensive ships, coastal craft, harbor craft, inland waterway craft. They will all have their particular solutions, ranging from battery hybrid, fuel cells, and going all the way up to deep sea shipping that will require a high energy solution, which we'll come on to in a moment. And the question is even more complicated because a different solution will present itself for the existing fleet and a ship that you still have to design and build. You have a great choice if you're starting to design and build a new ship. If you have a ship on the water now, which may just have been delivered and has a service life of, say, 25 years, you have to look to see how you can keep that ship competitive and how you can lower the carbon footprint to make it attractive in the charter market. And the requirement goes beyond technology. Sufficient global fuel production and infrastructure must always exist. People talk about methanol, for example, as a potential future fuel. That's a mature value chain, but it's a value chain that is designed around its existing customers. Most of the methanol that is produced already has a customer in industry outside shipping. So I think we have to balance that with the choices that we see going forward. As far as prime movers are concerned, we see that the internal combustion engine has a long future ahead of it. It will evolve and will be capable of burning quite a number of future fuels, and electric motors will come onto the scene as well. Now, in the energy transition, and we're talking quite a long way in the future here, the green hydrogen economy will be absolutely key to how the shipping industry decarbonizes. And it's probable that by 2050 or earlier, zero carbon fuels will have entered the energy mix used by shipping. Now, the front runners this time are clearly going to be e-fuels, using green hydrogen as the building block. And that could be e-hydrogen, compressed or cryogenic, e-ammonia, synthetic fuels, including synthetic methane. However, to be classified as a true destination fuel, the winners are likely to be carbon-free when consumed, or as Michael mentioned earlier, have some form of carbon capture on board. At the moment, carbon capture, we believe, is a complex system. Ships are not laboratories. If you create another waste stream, you have a cost of removing that waste and dealing with it in some way. So I think in our mind, the jury's out about whether carbon capture on board a cost-effective way of dealing with this. But the key to the green hydrogen economy that we have very quickly tried to describe here, I think, will depend on sector coupling. And that's the diagram on the left-hand side of the screen. And it will show that the global infrastructure that is necessary for shipping to decarbonize, the cost of that cannot just be borne by the shipping industry. It has to be shared by many industries and have the same base, which is the e-hydrogen economy, from which you can make a number of different e-fuels. So that, I hope, is kept within the 10 minutes. I apologize for rushing, but it's a very difficult to, quite difficult to ensure we can come back to some of these aspects during the Q&A. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks Angus. We already see some questions popping up, so I hope we will be able to address some of these items in more detail. Indeed, 10 minutes is not so long, but the idea is indeed to have a robust Q&A. So please keep bringing in the questions. We will try to answer most of them after the presentation. So keep bringing them in, and they will be collected and shared. So without further ado, I would like to hand over to Bjorn, please.
Thank you very much. I will share my screen. Okay, so thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak on this virtual Q&A and session today. I would like to introduce our company. I would like to give an overview on the LNG bunker vessel fleet as it stands today. Where do we come from, and where are we today? It has been a very exciting decade for LNG as fuel and LNG infrastructure, basically. So TGE Marine, basically TGE Marine Gas Engineering, we do everything that is liquefied gas and floats and is related to the marine industry. We are since 40 years in the business, so we're having our 40 years anniversary this year. We're going to celebrate it with all our friends and friends, but unfortunately Corona would not let us do that. So we will do it next year. We have ourselves been involved in the construction of 4 bunker vessels, and 2 more are under construction at the moment. We are the EPC contractor for the cargo handling systems and the cargo tanks. So basically a technology provider for LNG bunker vessels, but also gas carriers and LNG fuel gas systems. So we are on both sides of the value chain with our technology. Basically for us, the small scale LNG and then coming to LNG bunkers started 10 years ago with the core methane, which was for us the first small scale LNG vessel. At the time, she was actually built as a combined LNG ethylene carrier because it was not given at the time that she could trade 100% in LNG. So the ethylene was used as a fallback option for the vessel. Now, 10 years down the road, we know that she has hardly seen any ethylene because the LNG trade has grown so strongly, and that was mostly driven, as we also see in this later slide, by LNG as fuel. In addition to that, we have now with a small-scale LNG fleet come up to sizes of 18,000, 30,000 cubic meters, so quite large vessels, and some of these which are under construction today or even being delivered are also designed as bunker vessels, which we could not imagine 10 years ago. So on the LNG bunker vessels, the 4 vessels that I have mentioned, We have been providing the fuel system, the cargo handling system and the cargo tanks for the Cadissa, that is Shell's bunker vessel, was one of the first, and the Coralius, and also the NG Zeebrugge. So these were the first 3 new built bunker vessels that have been delivered around 2018. And in the meantime, as I mentioned, the core methane, she has even been converted to an LNG bunker vessel. So coming from an LNG ethylene carrier with uncertainty if she would be employed 100% in LNG trade, she's now even operating mostly as an LNG bunker vessel. So where have we been? Only 5 years ago, we had more or less 1 bunker vessel in operation, which was the Seagas in 2017. She had been operating for a while, but destined to a certain project. We had first tries on ship-to-ship bunkering. We used standard, that was Anthony Weder, you see in the below picture with her Coral Energy, using non-special equipped small-scale LNG carriers as bunker vessel, just to prove the case that LNG bunkering ship-to-ship is a possibility. And that was the time when the first bunker vessels were being ordered. In the meantime, what we see over the last years is that we have a lot of industry first, and we see an excellent safety record in the LNG ship-to-ship bunkering. And there is no week and no month at the moment where we see news of LNG first in terms of sizes of LNG parcels being delivered, in terms of locations where the first LNG ship-to-ship bunkering is undertaken, or in terms of the types of vessels that are being bunkered LNG ship-to-ship.
Bjorn, sorry to interrupt, but we're having difficulty seeing your slides, and as far as I'm concerned, it's stuck on the last page. So the storyline is very good, but we do miss the visuals behind it.
Okay. Shall I try to reshare? Let me give me a minute.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry for that, people, but I think some of the pictures are very good in the presentation. So let's make sure we can actually see them. Right, there we go. Thanks. This is the Cardissa we're seeing, and the that's
okay. So
all right, thanks.
That was my story about the small-scale LNG fleet growing. This is the Cadissa and the Coralius, which I mentioned. Then we come to the NG Zeebrugge and the Coral Methane. And sorry, so this is the bunker operations prior to 2017. Then we come to the first of operations, and in this example, we have we actually have the Cadissa bunkering one of the container ship vessels that is in Rotterdam. Transition is slow, isn't it? Okay, so here we have the core methane that was first offs with the cruise vessels. So the cruise industry was one of the first to embrace LNG as fuel. It was also one of the most publicly criticized trades, I would say, when it comes to the cruise industry. It was the first time that we have actually seen in the public media discussions about the fuel being used and the emissions of shipping when this story became public. And there was a reaction from shipping, which is good, and which is continuing throughout all fleets and with all ship owners. And now we are going into decarbonization, and this is a development, and we see and we've seen in the earlier presentations that LNG is a big part of that, and that LNG is paving the way for decarbonization of shipping. So where have we been with a small-scale LNG fleet? This is what we see between the 2000 and 2021. So prior 2000, there was hardly any small LNG carriers. So for any either bunkering or small scale project, there was hardly anything you could find to transport the LNG in small parcels. In the meantime, we have more than 53 small scale LNG carriers in the water. And out of these 53, we have over 20 LNG bunker vessels in the water by 2021. So this shows how significantly the infrastructure has been developed. And this is what I say, the exciting years that we have had over the last 5 to 10 years with the development of the bunker fleet. So when we look at it on a map and see what we had in transition is too slow. So see what we have on the map pre-2017. That was nothing basically. Then in 2017, we had one bunker vessel in operation. Coming up into today, 2020, this is basically the geographical locations we have with bunker vessels in operation today. So there, I think for a long time now, you're not allowed to say the word chicken and egg anymore if you talk at any of these conferences. We have confirmed orders for 2020 and 2021, covering even more of the world, and we have confirmed projects which are about to order vessels. And if you see, if you look at the world map now compared with 2017, then you see that the coverage of LNG as bunker fuel, and this is only the bunker vessels, this is not shore-to-ship bunkering, this is only the ship-to-ship infrastructure. You see that we are covered quite well on a world scale. From a technology point of view, the interfaces between the LNG bunker vessel and the client is the most important part. We have a lot of experiences now. We have 100 LNG bunker operations with Coralius, just mentioned, also over 100 LNG bunker operations with Flex Fueler. The Seagas, which was the first vessel in operation, has more than 2,000 LNG bunker operations. So from the scale and the number of bunker vessels and the number of operations, LNG as fuel is becoming more and more mature and available to the market. So that is the statement I would like to make is, yes, the infrastructure is there, the experiences are there, the operations are there. So LNG is becoming a mature fuel to the market. Thank you.
Thank you, Björn. Very good overview. I think we'll have some questions regarding your maps as well. So that's very good. Thank you very much. I would like to hand over to Antonio, please. Take it away.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, and we can see the screen as well. So you're
good. Let me just check the time. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, VS Group, and thank you, the audience, for attending this seminar. I want to talk about a divorce that we have suffered in Spain in just 1 year. We were talking about an exciting decade, but I'm only talking today about what happened last year in Spain and what are we seeing today. Eventually, we've been able to split two words that usually came together, making a perfect couple, which are future and LNG. Today, we can say that we have made an effort to bring all the way back from the future to the present, and LNG is a reality. At least it is how we see it in Spain, and I would like to share this experience with you. Well, this is the first evidence. This is a press cut from the summer where you see a tugboat joining the LNG powered fleet. Okay, This means that we have more ships and we have more companies using LNG. As you will see, they are making LNG bunkering operations regularly, which are good news, okay, for the development of the LNG market. Let me just talk a little bit about myself and my company, and I will show why I think Spain is privileged in, in developing the LNG market. And I will just make an example of why I think that's the situation and how we have been taking advantage of these privileges that we have. Well, the figures are there. I mean, if I'm proud to belong to Naturgy, because we take care of almost 20 million customers, which is something, quick said, but difficultly done. The figures that really matters is what have we done just last year. Last year we were making LNG operations as much as 70 operations in the whole year, but that for you to have an idea, that means that Naturgy was behind 4 out of every 10 bunkering truck-to-ship operations. Okay, we have operated in different ports, with different ships. But the thing is that when a maritime company jump into the LNG world, they are asking, the more relevant player to team up and to join them for taking this challenge. Why the market is so special in Spain? This is the first stop I want to do in my presentation, just for you to have a look of how Spain as a country is shown on the map. As you see, we are a peninsula, and we have all along the coastline, we have different import terminals. That means that we are not focused just in one point, that we have, in other words, flexibility. For example, if you are sailing the Mediterranean Sea and you want to make a call for Barcelona, and probably you don't have a slot there for the dates you deserve, you can easily switch into Cartagena. But if your ship does not match the requirement of the bridge of the port of Cartagena, no problem, you can still switch into Valencia and call for Valencia. That's why I'm mentioning that we are providing the market with a lot of flexibility. But I also would like to highlight this figure here: over 40,000 trucks loaded in 1 year. That means that today we have 120 trucks looking for the customer, the industrial customer, for unload the LNG. And that means that beside the flexibility, we have a quick answer for LNG bunkering demands. And if you have a quick answer and if you have a what you are showing the maritime companies is that you have a reliability in Spain to provide LNG bunkering. Maybe you can see it in that picture how Spain, not only maybe we don't have the biggest port in Europe, because obviously those are here in the ARA region, but the thing is that you can see here how the possibilities for bunkering, these are LNG import terminals, as I told you before, is widespread over the coastline. You will see here, we are not ranking #1, but we have 3 of the top 10 ranked ports in Europe. So if it is true that Spain is so privileged or so well prepared for the development of bunkering, let's see what are the figures, and let's see what's been done right now in the country. Let's look for evidences, because they are quite wide. This press cut also is from summer, when we fortunately joined a new port providing LNG bunkering. Is it relevant? Yes, it is, because as you can see here, by the way, just one mention, I'm not talking about the future. Okay, future has gone for us talking about LNG so far. So if you you have a look to the left side of the slide, you will find yesterday, 2019. If you have a look to the right-hand side, you will see today, 2020. And if you make a movement from left to right, you will see how we almost double the number of ports that are providing regularly LNG. It means that today, probably half of these ports are delivering LNG. If we talk about companies, we fortunately joined Ibaizabal this year to the LNG vessels fleet, and obviously the number one, the leader in Spain has been Balearia, with a significant number of fleets, as you will see. Last year we had six ships powered by LNG, and in 2020, this year, with the last incorporation of Ibaizabal, we are bunkering with LNG as much as 10 ships regularly, because as you can imagine, once you use LNG, you don't want to switch into low sulfur fuel oil. The interesting thing to check are the figures. If you have a look to the figures, you will see two amazing changes from last year. We can talk about quantity and both quality. If you see the figures for the numbers for 2019, we performed 166 operations, but this year, 2020, we will end with near 1,000 tractor ship operations, and that's a lot. But it's not only that. If you have a look to this blue line here, that means that in December, we performed 2 multi-tractor ship operations, just in December. Now, multi-tractor ship, sorry, this blue line here is the new business as usual, as you can see. And that means that we saw the pumping rate making, along with CMODs, making the bunkering operations really convenient for the shipping companies. Those are the designs that we had last year on the lab, and these are the real pictures that you can see in all these ports that I have already shown. And again, chicken and egg country. I mean, now that we have brought LNG from the future to here, we can say that the reality has shown us how, step by step, to be honest, IMO 2020, along with European subsidies, has allowed some companies to jump into LNG. This small demand has triggered investments in different ports, and this investment again has allowed the fleet to increase in that rate, up to so far 10 ships. There are more to come. And again, we will see sooner than later how the investments still grow on bunkering station, shore to ship, ship to ship. There's a quite interesting scenario for bunker barge to be fitted in Spain. What's in the future for the LNG? This is one look to the past, what we have learned. I cannot go on that. Just let me tell you that we are on the LNG business for more than 50 years. We have proven LNG to be safe, and it is good not to take it for granted, and it's good to bear in mind that we are all the industries involved in LNG bunkering are pretty much concerned on keeping safety standards. There are other lessons, but I will not go on detail on that. Okay, what can we expect from the near future? And this is the only time that I will talk about the future. Well, there are more coming. There are more shippings coming. There are more ports ready for. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let's take it over. There are more ports performing LNG. We are, as you see, multiplying and increasing the pumping rate from 2, 3, and 4 trucks at a time, which is a quantum leap from what we just saw last year. And the more recent changes come from a legal framework. I mean, it comes from Europe, and we are introducing it into Spain. Yesterday, we released the new rates for the third-party access to the grid, the national grid, and they plunged. They reduced very much the cost for bunkering. We have a new Spanish hub, and we are building new facilities, as I told you. There's no time to waste. There's no more time for wait and see. What we are seeing is there is a lot of action, there is a lot of movement. It is turning into flexibility. It is turning into much more last mile investment. And hopefully this will end with, continually increase in the fleet of LNG powered vessels. There's something clear. There's something clear for us that LNG, I don't know. If you have a look to the future, we can talk about ammonia, hydrogen, sync fuels. There are more solutions to come. I'm pretty sure the scenario will change in half a century. But if I have a certainty is that all the things that all the new fuels that are to come will rely on LNG. The new vessels are using LNG to be powered. That's how we are seeing it here. And that's all by my side.
All right, thanks very much for that, Antonio. Let's move over to Johan Christensen, the operations manager of Vurentank, who will share some practical experience with LNG as well. So, Johan, it's yours.
Yeah, okay. I'll try to share the screen. Just tell me if you see what I'm trying to show. Do you see it?
I see a armada of LNG powered vessels.
You see in the back, you see Vinga Lighthouse. That's the approach to Gothenburg, and that's where the company's logo coming from. That's the okay. My name is Johan Christensen, working on Vurentank Chartering as an operation manager. So we are dealing with the LNG bunkering for several companies that is in our pool. And I started here 2016 at the technical side, and then Further West was converted on a shipyard in Denmark. So that's 4 years ago, and it was quite hectic in the start for doing bunkering, and now everything is running more or less smoothly. So today it's like a natural day. It's easier to do LNG bunkering than normal bunkerings, from my point of view. We have a history. Oops. Yeah, Vurentank is an old company from the 1950s, and they started with small bunker operations vessels in the Swedish inland seaways, and then they developed the vessels from decade to decade. They get more efficiency, more and more in port efficiency. But now, since the environmental is going to more focus, they develop also environmental friendly vessel with the dual propulsion. Where I'm working, it's Vurentank Chartering, and that's together with the two tankers. We call it Gothia Tanker Alliance, and we have an office in Gothenburg. We have totally 40 vessels, and 8 of this is dual fueled with LNG, and 4 more vessels is on the building site. So actually, Vurentank will have a delivery now in mid-December from Shanghai, China. And that's number 7 in a series. So that's very good when we have this group that we can work together. We can share technical issues, vetting issues, and all sorts of issues we have. And also have better prices against the suppliers then. That's the most important. The reason why Vurentank choose to go for dual fuel from diesel fuel or heavy fuel was they see that they were tightening up the EU sulphur directives in ECA and the SECA areas 2005, and then that is 0.1% sulphur in the EU ports 2010, and then 2015 SECA in the North Sea of 0.1 sulphur. and also for the demand around the world for the society and the political environment. Customers' awareness, of course, we've seen, but it's not so much in the tankers as we wish. We wish more customer demand for, let's say, that we can have a little share of the fuel price for developing or get some benefits for the fuel or something. After we made a decision, we get the 2020 0.5 worldwide, focus on public health risk and NOx. So the decision was right to do at the time. From this conversion of one vessel, Furu West, we ended up with a series of new buildings. And if you compared, with these vessels, we have deducted the CO2 or the carbon emission by 55%. That's not due to LNG, it's more the ship design. Everything gets smarter. I mean, we run the vessels with the lower speeds, so we think more about how to run them. And of course, the hull design is doing a lot of there. The NOx and the SOx is down. A particle that we think is most important for the area we are trading in ports where you're almost into the city center. You want to avoid the particle out in the emission. So that's almost eliminated. So this is good for the human health. And then also we have reduced the noise a lot for these vessels down to 50%. And that's also important when we are in areas close to houses and this. So we keep the noise down so we can keep the industry alive without disturbing too much for the normal people. This is the emission carbon path that was made by Furutank. You see, in the beginning of 2000 to 2010, the focus was to have full speed and just run as quick you can, use as much fuel you can to get good money. But then the market went down 2009, and we had to reduce the fuel get so expensive, so we reduced the speed to meet the market. That was good, so that still we do. 2013, they installed some equipment to make a better propeller pitch to achieve the fuel saving for that. And then it went on, the conversion 2014, and then the new buildings then. So you see the curve is dropping down and down. So already in 2016, we could meet the EU 2030. And 2019, we met the 2050 goals for IMO. This will show, I will not go through so much, but this shows there is an EEDI, Energy Efficiency Design Index in IMO. And this one, it's going through all these things with the new building tankers, ships. And you can see out here that the scores for our vessel is pretty good compared to other vessels with the same dual-fuel. The reason for this is that we have a duct propeller that gives a better force when we're running through waters, and this gives us a smaller main engine, so we have less emissions in the funnel. And we have some other stuff like floating frequency and all sorts of things there. This shows the time we spend sailing in ballast and loading. So I mean, that's the main engine output there. So that's the most time is sailing and loading, and that's the most time we use most fuel. Like discharging, loading, and idling is not so much fuel consumption. So that's why the main engine is on dual fuel. Here is the path we've done. The inner circle is an ordinary intermediate tanker with fuel. 100% is running on gas oil or that kind of fuel. When we convert to Furu West, we had 42% was running on LNG, and the rest was on gas oil then, like in maneuvering, discharging, loading, or at anchorage. We find out that the discharging operation takes some power. We need fuel for that. So when they did the new buildings, they decided that they could run the main engine during discharging operation. So with this, it means that 68% of the trading we do with LNG on the new buildings, and the rest 32% is just like at anchorage loading. It's low consumption operation, so that this helped us a lot. So you can see there the carbon emission per year has dropped a lot if you compare to all types of vessel to the new one, and also the NOx that is very dangerous for the human. It's dropped a lot. Our impact, it's we reduced with this fleet. We reduced carbon emission to 20,000 tons, and that's equal to 11,000 cars in the EU. And for the next coming years, we get more vessels running with the more efficiency vessels with the hull and the fuel. So we will drop the emissions even more there. We actually did 2018 in Gothenburg. We did the first LBG, the bunkering. It was quite hard to get a place to do it, since sometimes we feel like not the ports, but the authorities around the ports is afraid of gas or LNG, liquid gas. We mean it's more safe than ordinary bunker, since you have all the regulations around. So we struggled a lot here to do the biogas bunkering, but we did it, and everything is running smooth, so it's no problem at all. Yeah, as we see here, we have the LNG bunkering development. We have where we're trading, it's mostly north of Europe, down in the Med sometimes. In our area, we had the Titan with Michael and the guys with the flexi-fueler, doing a perfect job, helping us to do sim-ups, and everything is going rapidly, and everybody's working together. Sometimes it's fighting with the terminals, but one by one they are getting there, and they understand that this is good for everybody, that we can do this same time as we do cargo ops, so we save time, we save emissions, and everything is running smoothly. We have Gasum in the Baltic and the west of Sweden, sometimes Norway. Naturgy and Repsol we have done in Spain, Cartagena. We're looking for the future there, maybe in Huelva and Cartagena also with the terminals. We actually had a vessel over in New Orleans, and we did the bunkering in Jacksonville. It was the first non-US flagged vessel bunkered LNG over there. Since we are one of the front runner in this, we find it quite easy to do bunker purchases, but I understand in the future now, when you have a lot of other companies coming in, suppliers, it will be quite hard. So we are in the pilot project of a program called Fuel Boss, where you can order fuel, you can see where the vessel is, and so we find out it's quite useful, but more useful for the new people running LNG vessels, and also for the future. That will be good thing. And also we are ready for biogas. We are there and we can do it. Just a matter of, I believe, the price. This is just a quick one, shows the price for gas oil and LNG for the past years, and it's been good, attractive. It's sometimes in the port, like you said, in Spain, we find it easy, but there we have to use tugs and this stuff. It gets quite expensive because we don't need tugs, but that port authorities require it. So if we can get help to make them understand that we don't need it, we can do it without it. Yeah, that's all for me. And on this picture, you see the beautiful island up to the right. That's Dunes Island, where the company is founded. And in the middle, you see Furuwinga on the way to her naming ceremony on the island. That was in 2 years ago. Okay, thank you.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful picture, Johan. Thanks for the comprehensive overview. Right. If hopefully the audience is ready for the Q&A. Now it gets interesting. We've received a number of questions already. I see that even my panelists have answered already some questions, so that's good. Let's take the questions from the top. We do it in the order that they came in. I'm not sure if it's okay if I say the name, but that maybe is not that relevant. So we have here a question. I believe that LNG can be a permanent solution if combined with carbon capture as mentioned. What's your opinion on the feasibility of doing it on board? Challenges. Okay. Yeah, it was. I think that was also from the picture that I've shown. I have a small answer for that. Carbon capture is something that is being developed at this point in time, allowing for carbon capture on board. That's an impact for a vessel. Let's be clear of that. Also on disposing it, if you manage to capture it on board, which looks from the studies that at least I've seen, so TG Björn, hopefully you know more about it. From the studies that I've seen, it looks feasible, but then of course you need the supply chain to take it off the vessel and making sure that it gets re-injected to the into a grid as well, so you can reuse it. As far as I'm concerned, it's going to be a challenge, but it's going to be a challenge for other fuels as well. So this is part of a future solution that is yet to be developed. Same as says other fuels as ammonia, etc. Björn, any comments on that?
Yeah, I can add to the disposal. I mean, onboard capture is being developed, as you say. In addition to that, we have carbon capture and storage chains being developed. So there's several projects, mostly originated from Norway, like the Northern Lights project or the Stella Maris project, where we're looking at injecting parcels of 7,000 cubic meters, 30,000 cubic meters into the well. So that part is being worked on. Now the part in between needs to be worked on to come to a suitable infrastructure. But it's being worked on.
Okay. Any of the other panelists would like to add something to that?
I think, Michael, just one comment, if I may.
Yeah.
I think, yes, technically it can be done, but I think we also need to be careful of the commercial side of it. You know, if you look 10, 15 years from now, anything is going to be expensive. So the disposal of this CO2, presumably liquefied, that you're going to discharge from a ship, that's going to be an expensive operation, and the eyes of the world, you know, the environmental eyes of the world are going to be on you. So I think that cost has to be clarified before you can decide whether it's commercially attractive.
Yeah, that's the same for any alternative fuel and closing any cycle.
No, absolutely. But I think anything to do with CO2 is going to become quite a hot button, and one that shouldn't be taken lightly. And the other thing that I would like to make mention of is, if you look back to when MARPOL came in and ports had an obligation to provide facilities for sludge removal, how many ports actually put that in place? So I think, you know, that there are more than technical issues to work out here. It's not just industry cost.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks. Let's move on to the next question. What will be the share of biofuels amongst? Okay, I suspect it will be bio LNG in this particular matter. Johan, do you said you already are working on taking in bio LNG as a marine fuel. What's your take on the future of bio LNG?
Yeah, we have done it by truck once, and we're looking for the future to do it again. And I understand you are there for delivering. So, no, I mean, if the price is, I mean, as we are trading, we cannot just buy the most expensive fuel either. So we're looking for the future, and if we can have this European trading system for selling emission rates or emission, so we can have some earning back on that, then it will be a go ahead, more or less, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. It's also about, I think the percentage of bio LNG could be really high, depending on the economically on how attractive it is in terms of pricing. And so we will see an increased uptake of LNG, of bio LNG, if the sourcing becomes of age or of scale. At the moment, it's still fairly expensive. And you also see some competition from other transport sectors that are looking to include bio LNG as well. If you have the right economies of scales and can produce, I think it's also important that you can produce it locally. So what we are looking after as Titan LNG, we're also trying to develop this bio LNG to include it into the supply chain, but we are quite cautious of not bringing the wrong type of bio LNG, because there's also various types of bio LNG. Not bringing it around the globe to deliver it in the port of Rotterdam, because then we're just adding CO2 to the bio LNG. So I think that could be potentially a mistake in future as well. As Angus said, some of the environmentalists are looking very much into what the market is doing. So I think we should have a crisp agenda on this and be conscious about about not moving it around the world. So local production, and then if there's excess production locally, maybe selling it via tickets that to include it in other supply chains as well as making sure that it's sourced from that the origination of the bio LNG can be validated, and that it doesn't derive from that doesn't compete with food stocks, etc. So that there's quite some ground to cover, but it's going to be there. I think it's a necessity for LNG as a marine fuel into the very long future.
And we have the tanks ready, so we are ready for the bio. And the easiest way is to do nothing, still run on fuel, but we choose the other path.
Yes, absolutely.
So
and I think that's the just to add to that, I think that's one of the beauties of bio LNG versus normal LNG. Compatibility is 100%. So what you see with other fuels, the distillates or the fuel oils, we see that already with VLSFO. If you bunker a parcel of VLSFO in Rotterdam, it's very highly not recommended to mix it with a parcel you bunker in even as close as Antwerp. Contamination or commingling parcels is something you shouldn't do at this point in time. For bio LNG versus conventional LNG, the compatibility is 100%. So that is of no concern, which is the beauty of this product. All the various streams of LNG and bio LNG can be 100% mixed. Any comments from the other panelists on this question? No? Okay. Then we go to the next one. What do you think about methanization to produce synthetic gas and then synthetic LNG? Björn, any statement on that?
No, not really. We are not that far upstream.
Technically, maybe.
Yeah. No, not on this one.
Angus, any comments on that?
Well, I think again, it's obviously an option, and how attractive it is and how much need there is for it will depend on the demand for synthetic LNG. And I think it's difficult to answer because you have to set that against what the energy mix will look like in the future. Yeah. And if you start to see green hydrogen coming down to $1 a kilo, which is a figure that seems to be mentioned quite frequently, then I think the need for decarbonizing a fossil fuel becomes less important, because you have hydrogen as the building blocks for a number of different fuels. So I think it really depends at which point in time you're asking that question. As you mentioned before, scarcity of bio-LNG and conflict with other value chains is going to be putting a brake on the volume available. So, I think in amongst that, there might be a position for producing synthetic LNG using fossil sources, but difficult to answer beyond that.
Yeah, I agree. I think methanization of hydrogen serves a very important benefit as well. Is that you can move the hydrogen and create storage for that, and deploying that into existing LNG infrastructure could be a very interesting one. We see it at least as a great potential. Okay, so we move to the next questions. Yeah, I want to address as many questions as possible. We may actually overrun the timing set for the conference, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm ready to sit in a little bit longer to make sure that we answer some of the most of the questions that have been asked. So Mr. C. Hupfner made a question as well. But the lessons learned on the first generation of LBVs, okay, we have basically seen designed and built at a time where LNG bunkering was not really happening. That's true. So here we saw that the likes of the Cardissa and the NGZ Bruges were built and were the pioneers of the bunkering. Which aspects would you consider today as most important for an LNG bunker vessel, especially now having a decent picture of LNG bunker operations, especially in Europe? Angus, you're still in the middle of my screen. Are there things you would do slightly different compared to the Kairos, for example?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question and very relevant. We've asked ourselves that question on a number of occasions, because the tendency when we designed and built the Kairos was to make it capable of doing everything. So we refer to it as the Swiss Army knife of LNG bunkering. I think what is happening now is a degree of specialization as people look at the area they're going to serve. Kairos was designed, well, first of all, she was ice class, which is expensive. But I think nowadays, when you look at the area you're going to put a ship in, there are things that you can do without. You wouldn't need the ice class. You still need very good maneuverability. You need multiple manifolds. Stern manifold, I think, is something that has proved its value again and again. But I think generally ships are going to become less complex as they're focused on working in a particular port, instead of having to be compatible with many different ports and many different ships, etc. So simplification, I think, would be the order of the day.
Agree. Björn, can you confirm that as well in maybe some of the projects that you're working on, that people want to have it simpler, or are less concerned about the nitty-gritty because it's now also more proven technology?
Yes, yeah, certainly. I certainly agree on the simplification part. First vessels, as Angus said, they were designed to do everything. So they had facilities on board also to take the customers' tanks out of service and into service, purging, warming up, cooling down, etc. All these operations. And once you have this bunker vessel, this kind of bunker vessel in the area, the following bunker vessels, that can be a lot simpler and only focus on the area and only focus on the LNG bunkering itself. And then also when it comes to manifolds, on the early vessels, we have included elevated manifolds, so they will be compatible with large-scale terminals. Now more and more terminals, they adapt to small scale, so this kind of equipment is not necessary anymore. So there's by the standardization and the development in the industry, vessels can be made simpler and cheaper and more adapted to the case.
Perfect. Thanks. If there's cheaper and simpler, that also drives down the delivered cost, of course, for LNG as a marine fuel, making the proposition more attractive. Yes, Antonio, sorry.
What we have seen is that at the beginning we have dealt with more retrofits than new vessels, and it was a little harder to try to adapt what were the requirements of these old vessels to the to the LNG bunkering activity itself. Now what we ask the customer is to work together in the design part of the process to build simpler bunker stations, not that high, maybe put one on both sides of the vessels. And as my colleague was mentioning before, it's very tailored to the port where she's going to be routed, because most of the time there are going to be a number of vessels that will be calling 80% of the time the same port. So if you take on consideration these specific features of this moor where the ship is expecting to come, I think vessels will be simpler and obviously cheaper and easier to operate.
Yeah, I fully agree. Thanks for adding that. And I also would like to add that they can be also made simpler because there's also more clarity on the rules and regulations, and there are not that many differences anymore between the ports. And there seems to be a more like a generic approach to approving LNG bunkering between various ports as well, various trading areas, and as the amount of LNG bunkerings, bunker transfers are rising, so is the comfort of the regulators that are not necessarily pioneering anymore, but can follow some of the ports, for example, that have paved the way already. So I think that's also a very important aspect, that you may not see big or small deviations between various locations in terms of rules and regulations regarding the bunkering infrastructure. Okay, the next question. It's great that LNG is considered to be safe. What additional safety measures have you introduced to ensure it stays this way? How will introducing these safe measures affect the day-to-day operations? That's a twofold answer. That safety is an important aspect, and it goes two sides. That's that you have the regulatory framework. Then you have the supplier who has to adhere to safety regulations, but also the receiver. So maybe Johan, you can say something about how you make sure that you can actually take bunkers on a safe manner.
Yeah, we have this especially LNG bunker course for the crew on board. So they take this course before they can do to attend the bunker itself, or even sign on a vessel with the propulsion. We have a special bunker manual for the vessels on board. They have the PPE, like protection, gloves, visor, and helmets, and everything. So it's safe, and as I said before, it's even more safe than ordinary bunker fuel, like diesel, because everything is classified, everything is proper equipment, all the people are aware, and it's better than that. And also, like, it's not only for the safety around the safety equipment, but in the engine room, for the guys down there, it's more quiet in the engine room due to the running on LNG, because of the fuel is explosion, compression. The ignition is by pilot fuel, so it's more softer and more quiet in the engine room, and it's cleaner in the engine room also for the guys on board.
Yeah. So, okay. Thanks. Anybody wants to, Johan, the training for the crew, is that very difficult? You need you have the IGF code and the IGC code. Sounds all very difficult. What do you think?
I did it myself, so I passed, so it's not so bad. No, it's it's like a standard course. It's not difficult, but they go through it for 2 days, and then the most job is on board to train the crew on the ship then. But the guys on board are already aware since they have professionals at sea, so it's quite easy for them.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and on a general comment, LNG is safe. The supply chain is quite safe. There hasn't been any major accidents for LNG. So and if there is a spill, it doesn't necessarily damage the entire water. So that's fairly good as well. You can better have a small spill of LNG on a coral reef than with heavy fuel oil. Although it's quite difficult to get a spill actually because of the double layer containment systems, etc. So all the studies.
Okay.
LNG is safe. Antonio, yeah.
If I may,
Yeah.
we have been really surprised when we have been performing the first LNG bunkering operations, how everybody was keeping an eye on us, and I can understand that because even though, as I told you, we've been involved in LNG for half a century, it was the first time that we introduced it into the ports and into the vessels. For those people that haven't had the opportunity to have a look to a tractor ship operation, they will see that the safety measures are really, really high. And we always wonder when will arrive the day that we'll be treated as, as a regular bunker. If you compare the operations that we do with ships, with the operation that we do, bunkering operations we do with ships, with the operation of unloading LNG that we do for industrial customers or for the stations for vehicles, you will find huge differences. And it's good. It's good at the beginning because we have to prove that LNG is safe. And this is something, as I told you, that cannot be taken for granted. And we are making a big effort. But if things go properly, I think it will come the day that the procedures will be clear. There will be no fear, but just concern about the safety of the LNG. And we will see a quick evolution on the safety standards that are required for LNG bunkering.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on. There's quite a bit of questions left, so I will try to do now a bit more random to answer some of the ones that are a bit more quick to answer. So what I see here, for example, is the quality of LNG delivered important to be measured during the bunkering for the engine of the ship? Yeah, just a quick reply from my side. The quality for LNG is typically measured by the engine manufacturer in a methane number, which is a calculation that is done based on the percentage of ethane versus methane. So that's it's actually like an octane number for LNG. That's the most important and almost the only parameter that is for the specification of LNG. Most of the time, either a cargo loading bill is shown or a flow meter is used to determine the quality that is delivered on board. Guys, if you don't agree, let me know. Otherwise, I move on to the next question. Let me see. How has the bunker market reacted to COVID? It's quite a diverse sector. Which ships or different kind using as LNG as a marine fuel? Do you see any structural shift in LNG demand for shipping? Okay, that's not an easy question to answer. Anybody wants to take this one? Angus?
No, thanks.
Okay. That's yeah. Just as a small reaction, the shipping market has reacted, and in its slipstream, the LNG fueled vessels order book has been affected as well. The whole market, the whole world is in a different position now due to the COVID outbreak. Less vessels are being built or released from the shipyard. We see delays, and we see as a general for shipping, we see that investments are postponed. The order book for LNG LNG as power remains healthy as a percentage of those vessels that are actually being ordered. So the number of or the percentage of LNG powered fleet versus other fuels remains attractive and is actually rising. So the amount of tonnage that is being put on the market continues to have a higher percentage of being LNG powered.
I think, Michael, just one small comment on that. I mean, one tangible thing that we are seeing is that you know, the European Green Deal, the moves by Shell and BP to reposition themselves. Perhaps if COVID has had an impact, it's given people breathing space and time to think. Maybe will actually accelerate the introduction of more environmentally friendly solutions.
Yeah, I fully agree. So thanks for adding. Let me see quality. We have done. Can I have an overview of LNG pricing? Is LNG sourced in the spot market or through long-term deals? Is there an LNG bunkering benchmark? That's a very good question. Johan, how are you sourcing your LNG?
With the pricing?
Yeah.
Yeah. The idea we like to have is the TTF price plus the logistic then. That's the way we do it, and we like it. Some suppliers are giving us in tons or in MMBTU, but then it's getting more complex. We like to have it in TTF and megawatt hours and logistic.
Yeah.
Simple. And the best is everybody can have the same then, more or less.
Yeah. For it's an anonymous attendee. I can give you a little bit of a sneak or a little premiere. Within, I think, 2 weeks' time, we will start publishing LNG delivered prices on the website of Titan LNG to create more transparency in this market. That's one of the questions that we often receive, that there's like this. That people have no idea on the cost, but also how to compare it to other fuels. And so it's very important to compare apples with apples. The graph that Johan showed earlier on the LNG prices versus GMGO is energy corrected, which is the right way to do it. So we will put on our website as well a conversion sheet to make sure that you compare the energy for energy. And actually what we do is converting back MGOs to a megawatt hour price in order to have the best comparison. And then it's quite clear that LNG is cheaper because you use less of it for the same amount of miles that you go. Typically, if you would use 1,000 tons of MGO, you would use approximately 815 tons of LNG, and that's very important to recognize. So the price of LNG may be 300 euro per ton, but then you need to deduct the energy efficiency from that. So that's a part of the education to the market or creating transparency that we as Titan are going to achieve, hopefully. So stay tuned for that. And what we see in terms of requirements, it's a mixed bag of spot versus term inquiries. So that also is a clear illustration that this market is maturing, and that ship owners are that they are comfortable enough on trading their vessels spot. I hope that answers the question. let me see. What else? Let me. Okay. Yeah. For I guess for everybody, this is a little bit of a pickle. Not a pickle, but it's sometimes it's called the elephant in the room. I sort of disagree, but it is a important aspect that we need to address. The question is actually for Vurentank. Do you have some idea about methane slip, or what is it?
Yeah, I think we have an idea and we know what it is. If we compare the whole chain of methane slip, from the well to the source, or from the well to the emission in the tunnel, the part we have on board we take care of, because we have a small amount of methane slip from the engine. That's all we have, because from the supplying vessel to us, it's a tight, the hose is tight, everything is tight, the hose is blown, everything is blown, so there is no slip at all there. In our tanks, when the pressure is rising, we drop them either by running the engine, or we run the IG boiler, so we can use LNG all the time to reduce the pressure in the tanks. So the methane slip we have is very, very low out from the engine. So that's the part that we do on board, we take care of, more or less.
Perfect. Any of the panelists want to add to that? No? Okay. Then we'll move on to the next question. With the CMA's Jacques Sadet joining amongst LNG powered vessels, how fast do you expect the other industry leaders to shift towards LNG and dual fuel engines? Antonio, any comments from that, or Bjorn? Bjorn, maybe first.
Yeah, I can say something. I mean, we are on a little bit on the front side of things there, because we, as a supplier of LNG fuel systems, we see all the inquiries coming in for vessels with LNG, and there's the CMA, and when the big players go in, it does trigger a lot. So in the wake of the CMA decision to use LNG as fuel, we have seen a lot of other players going the same way, and we see also what I said before with the cruise industry going into LNG. The more public it is, and the more people are taking the decision, the more people are taking up LNG as fuel. And as you said yourself, the order book, the percentage of LNG driven vessels in the order book is steadily increasing, and that's a trend we see over the last years.
Yeah. Okay, anybody wants to add to that?
Yes, if I can jump in here, just a remark. I was mentioning that the first shipping companies came into the LNG world because of the IMO regulation, obviously, and also because there were some subsidies from Europe. I think we have overcome this period, and now, as you were mentioning, prices of different fuels are making LNG a cost-effective solution. So it is not by chance that the top players in the shipping companies are betting for LNG. And I don't think, and I think that if it were it not for the virus and the pandemic that we've been suffering, we will have experienced a soar in the figures. We will in the short time, maybe not as fast as is what's expected, but for me there's no doubt that LNG will be the bet for many shipping companies that just consider, but that are focused just on taking profit of the LNG solution.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see if we can do some more questions. I'm cautious as well on the timing. I'm not sure. I didn't discuss this with the organizers, but it looks like we will not be able to answer all the questions, and I will discuss with the panel, the panelists, to see if we can answer some of the questions offline for the people that that have provided their name, and we will provide an answer to them by email or whatever way offline. So rest assured, we would like to answer your questions. Let me see. Okay, for you, Antonio. Last year you were considering the purchase of an LNG bunker vessel to operate in Algeciras. Do you have an update on this project?
Wow, good question. Yes, yes. We have suffered a deep transformation within the company. I mean, it's public. It's been in the media, and I think even though I'm not the one who's written the roadmap of the company, what I'm sure is that the bunkering unit is I would say it's growing. We are facing new businesses, and we are holding interesting interviews with the main players in the field. There was a specific ship last year. Now we are considering probably not make an investment by our side, but just joining different partners, because Spain is not a different scenario for the LNG market, and by 2022 there are going to be different vessels ready, the bunker barge, I mean, ready to deliver a ship-to-ship LNG bunkering. And I don't think I'm mistaken if I say that we will be on top of some of these projects. So definitely yes, we are there. We first of all, I must say that we are taking the most we can from multi-tractor ship. We are getting a lot of experience, and we are delivering up to, I mean, it's feasible to deliver 150, even 200 tons at a time, yep, which is, you know, quite interesting. But definitely in 1 year and a half, we will be ready to operate our own ship. That's our roadmap, and that's what we are dealing with for.
Cool. Sounds interesting. Good luck on that.
It's challenging. It's challenging.
Exactly. All right. I hope that answers the question. Where is the question? I'm not sure where it is, but I saw a question that is for Angus and Bjorn. Is it possible to supply LNG from a LNG bunker vessel that has sea-tight tanks into a receiving ship that has membrane tanks?
Well, I just answered that question by typing the answer in.
Oh, yeah. I lost it. Sorry.
Never mind. Yeah, but I can say yes, it is certainly possible. The operation pressure of the Type C tank can also be atmospheric. So it purely depends on the temperature that we receive the LNG with from the terminal and the ball of gas handling on the vessel itself, so that the LNG stays cold enough to be able to bunker a membrane type tank. So it does not depend on the tank type on the bunker vessel.
Yeah. Okay. Clear answer. Angus? I think it's okay, right? Okay, then I see here a question about the commercial viability of LNG. How has the oil price drop impacted LNG? Does it have any implications on the maritime industry in the perspective of the development of LNG? So what we see is that despite the fact that that the oil prices have come down significantly, that the LNG prices have remained to be attractive. There is still some correlation between LNG and oil prices, so that's the LNG world scale. And LNG remains to be, if you compare it right, the like-for-like comparison remains to be a very attractive fuel to run on. Also, especially if you look into the future prices. So if you plot the forward curves for the various types of fuel, and then LNG still looks pretty healthy. a little bit depending on the trading pattern, of course. You saw very clearly from the map of Bjorn that certain regions are underdeveloped in terms of LNG bunkering infrastructure. Trading a vessel to South America may not be the greatest of ideas just yet, unless it's a whole fleet of vessels, and you can get well, on that demand, make sure that you can actually get a supplier to arrange for a bunker vessel. But the business case for LNG powered vessels looks continuously healthy. And anybody wants to add something to that? No? Okay. Okay, something else. Does the temporary storage of loading of LNG containers on a marine terminal require any further approval or authorization? I think Antonio, running around with trucks and containers. Is that in terms of permitting? Is that an issue for you at the moment? You see, you mentioned that more and more ports welcome LNG bunkering. And we see that it's quite mature in Spain. What's your take on that?
I haven't seen the question actually, but if you can read it to me.
Okay, it's about the deployment of containers as well, and the truck availability. If it's easy for permitting, yeah, it's okay. You do intermodal, for example.
No, if I understood well, there's no extra issue, for the storage of this as far as it is in technology. The complexity you use new players. That's the only thing you have to take care of. For example, when I talk about the different ports that are permitting bunkering in the facilities, this is something that was hard at the beginning, and now you know it's been just a paperwork that can take some months. When you ask for permits for tanks for storage LNG, you will have no more issues that they're related to the permits and the licenses. And hopefully, as the new law is being implemented and developed, I think it's gonna draw a friendly scenario for new investments. That's how we see it right now.
Okay. Thanks very much. I think we have time for a last question. As I said, we will try to answer some of the questions that remain unanswered. We'll try to answer them directly to the person that submitted the questions. So hopefully, hopefully that works out. There was a question on exclusion zones. Yeah, that was, I believe that's maybe a port authority. So that's about a bunker vessel, which is alongside a receiving vessel, potentially at a terminal. What are the rules and regulations, and how big are the safety and exclusion zones? Angus, can you share something about that with your experience with the Kairos?
Sure. Well, I think everything has to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. And I think, there are two separate issues here. One is what a port might do, and one is what the decision is between a bunkering vessel and the receiving vessel. I mean, obviously, the person in overall advisory control on the bunkering vessel has to discuss with the receiving vessel what the exclusion zones will be, what activities are acceptable. So I think it's very hard to have a one-size-fits-all answer. Each circumstance has to be looked at on its individual merits, and the risks have to be analyzed. So I think it's as I mentioned in the presentation, high standards and education are really the key to maintaining the safe transfer of LNG as a marine fuel. I think it's very important that that between the bunker vessel and the receiving vessel has to be gone through in detail on each and every occasion, as I'm sure you do with every bunkering that Titan makes. And they can't all be assumed to be the same. There may be a circumstance, there may be a weather impact or something that has to be taken into account. So something that's constantly under review is, I think, the best way of saying it.
Well, so I think also there we see that with frequency and maturity comes also a bit more easiness from some of the regulators, where we saw sometimes, no, not saying hideous, but there are very different requests from various ports, making a lot of safety precautions with additional tugboats that had to go alongside with X amount of bollard power, double pilots, etc. So that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's all fading away at the moment as it becomes more common practice. The marine exclusion zone is, at least within the Port of Rotterdam, very well covered, and it's actually not so big. It's also depending on the type of cargo that the vessel is doing. For example, we deliver quite a bit to the vessels of Vurentank, which is already prohibited to pass too close to, because these are oil tankers doing cargo. So and with us done delivering LNG, the proximity remains approximately the same that vessels can pass. So it's not that we see these huge zones anymore. Agree on that? Okay, I think this is the end of this forum, the virtual LNG as a marine fuel. Hopefully, it was informative for all the people that have watched. I saw quite a high amount of people that were watching. Also, a lot of questions that were answered. So many that we didn't even have the time to answer them. So thanks everybody for submitting your questions. Again, we'll try to answer some of them offline as well. Thanks to all the panelists, Johan, Angus, Björn, Antonio, and Angus. Thanks very much for your participation. And well, it wasn't as nerve-wracking as I thought. I rather enjoyed this type of conversation. So maybe for some other time. So thanks all for being with us.
Thank you very much, Michael. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Bye for now.
Thank you, everybody.